Is your Scrum team stuck in a rut, delivering results but lacking energy and innovation? You're not alone. Most teams miss a crucial element that turns Scrum from a process into a powerhouse: culture. Think of it like this: Scrum's effectiveness relies on living its 5 values: commitment, focus, openness, respect, and courage. These values aren't just nice to have. They are the foundation that makes transparency and adaptation actually work in your team. Here's the thing: culture isn't just an add-on to your Scrum process. It's what determines whether your team can truly embrace these core principles. I will share you specific language and meeting tweaks you can start using today to foster those values in your teams. But first, we need to understand why so many teams struggle with what seems like basic process work. The answer lies in understanding the invisible forces that work against your Scrum implementation every day. Most teams think they are failing at Scrum because of process issues, but the real problem runs much deeper. You might have the perfect sprint planning sessions and flawless daily scrums, yet your team still struggles to deliver real value. The issue isn't your ceremonies or your backlog management. It's something far more subtle and powerful. Here's what many practitioners report: culture misalignment is a primary hidden obstacle in Scrum adoptions. Your team members might know every Scrum rule by heart, but if your company culture fights against these principles, you are swimming upstream. Think of it like trying to plant a garden in a toxic soil. No matter how good your seeds are, they won't grow. Traditional corporation behaviors actively fight against Scrum principles every single day. While Scrum asks for transparency, your company rewards people who hide problems. While Scrum promotes team decisions, your approval process requires individual sign-offs. These aren't just minor conflicts. When organizational norms reward hiding problems, they directly contradict Scrum pillars of transparency. Your organization sees self-managing teams as dangerous invaders and fight back without anyone realizing it's happening. The Scrum Guide defines self-managing cross-functional teams with no sub-teams or hierarchies. Yet your meeting culture probably demands that junior team members stay quiet while seniors speak first. Your approval processes require 3 manager signatures before any meaningful change. And your blame patterns focus on finding who made the mistake instead of learning from it. These behaviors block Scrum empirical pillars of transparency, inspection, and adaptation. When people can't be open about challenges, the Scrum value of openness breaks down, and with it, transparency and adaptation becomes impossible. Team members start hiding problems instead of solving them together. They stop experimenting with new approaches because failure might hurt their careers. In this environment, the psychological safety that Scrum requires simply cannot exist. Command and control mindsets make self-managing teams impossible to achieve. Managers who need to approve every decision can't suddenly trust teams to work independently. Leaders who measure success through individual performance can't embrace team accountability. These deeply rooted habits don't change just because you start using Scrum vocabulary. These culture problems show up most clearly in your everyday team dynamics. Every Scrum meeting becomes a window into whether your organizational structure supports or sabotages your team success. The real challenge lies in how traditional power structures actively undermine the self-managing teams that Scrum requires. There's a specific moment in every Scrum meeting that reveals whether your hierarchy is helping or hurting your team. What happens when someone raises a problem during your daily Scrum? Do team members look at each other and start problem solving together? Or do they immediately turn to their managers and wait for instructions? That single moment tells you everything about whether your organizational structure supports or kills Scrum. Traditional organization pyramids create invisible barriers that prevent true collaboration. Think of it like trying to have a conversation through a series of doors. Each level of management acts as another door between your team and the decision they need to make. The Scrum Guide stated that Scrum teams have no hierarchies or sub-teams, yet these traditional structures force information to get filtered, delayed, and changed as it moves up and down multiple levels. By the time a decision comes back to your team, the original problem might have evolved or disappeared entirely. Middle management often becomes a common friction point without meaning to. Middle managers build their career on control and oversight. When Scrum asks teams to self-organize and make their own decisions, it creates a tension with existing management roles. The Scrum Guide defines specific accountabilities for Scrum Masters and product owners that can overlap with traditional management responsibilities, which may inadvertently provoke resistance from those protecting their established roles. Approval change and decision bottlenecks contradict the core principles of team autonomy. Your developers spot the technical problem that needs immediate attention. In a traditional hierarchy, they need approvals from the team leads, who need approvals from the engineering manager, who needs approval from the director. This directly conflicts with Scrum accountabilities. Only the product owner can change the product backlog, and only the Scrum Master enforces Scrum practices. Lengthy approval change for backlog changes undermine these defined accountabilities entirely. Status difference prevent honest communication during retrospectives and daily scrums. Junior developers won't challenge senior architects about design decisions. Team members avoid mentioning problems that might reflect poorly on their manager. The psychological safety that Scrum needs simply can't exist when people worry about speaking truth to power. Individual metrics like lines of codes or ticket closed misalign with Scrum's focus on team increments and definition of done, creating competition within teams instead of collaboration. These structural challenges seems overwhelming, but targeted interventions can transform these obstacles into advantage faster than most leaders expect. Here's how you can implement specific changes that create immediate improvements in your team dynamics. One simple shift in how leaders ask questions can completely transform a team's willingness to take risk and innovate. Instead of asking who made this mistake, try asking what can we learn from this. That single change aligns with Scrum values of courage and openness, creating space for the transparent inspection and adaptation that the Scrum Guide emphasizes. This approach represents culture hacking, small changes that create massive shifts in team behavior. Think of it like adjusting the thermostat in your house. One small turn creates comfort throughout the entire space. Culture hacks work the same way. You don't need to overhaul your entire organization to see dramatic improvements in how your teams operate. Most people assume cultural change takes years, but strategic interventions can work in weeks. Your team members are already watching for signals about what's safe and what's dangerous. When you change those signals constantly, behavior changes follow quickly. Start with the psychological safety hack. Use specific phrases that make transparency safe for team members. When someone reports a problem, respond with "Thank you for bringing this up," instead of immediately jumping to solutions. Ask, "What could I have done to make this easier?" This shows vulnerability and makes it safe for others to admit struggles. When team members see leaders acknowledging their own mistakes, they feel permission to be honest about theirs. Restructure your meetings to eliminate status games and encourage genuine collaboration. Stop having the highest ranking person speak first in every discussion. Instead, rotate who facilitates stand-ups and retrospectives. This preserves the daily Scrum goal of self-managed planning rather than creating a side hierarchy. Ask for input from the quietest team members first. This breaks a pattern where junior people wait for senior approval before contributing ideas. Use retrospective practices that transform fear of mistakes into learning opportunities. When something goes wrong, gather the team and ask 3 questions. What happened? What did we learn? How can we prevent this next time? This approach is consistent with the sprint retrospective's emphasis on inspecting and adapting process and tools. Focus on the learning, not the blame. Shift from individual accountability to team accountability without losing performance standards. This echoes the Scrum Guide definitions of developer being jointly accountable for the incremental environment and the sprint goal. Set goals for the entire team instead of individual targets. During performance reviews, ask people to describe how they help their teammates succeed. Your implementation roadmap has 3 clear steps. Identify one cultural behavior in your organization. Apply your first hack consistently for 2 weeks, then expand to a second hack. These changes compound quickly when applied with intention and consistency. Building a thriving Scrum culture requires understanding how your daily choices reinforce Scrum pillars of transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Culture isn't something that happens to your team. It's something you actively build through intentional practices. Every question you ask, every meeting you run, and every response you give to problems shapes the environment your team works in. Take a moment right now to identify one culture barrier in your organization. Pick the most obvious one that's holding your team back. Choose one small change for your next sprint. Apply it to your daily Scrum or retrospective and inspect its impact on openness and team autonomy. Comment below which culture hack you will try first. Subscribe to support continuous learning in Agile practices. The most powerful Scrum teams aren't just following a process. They are creating an environment where people can do the best work.